Okay guys, today we're making peanut butter cookies. This is the ingredient list. Pause the video if you need to write it down. And I doubled the recipe for the sake of making a big batch. So now I'm going to grab the halved dry roasted peanuts and put them in the food processor. And what I have to do is I need to puree them or crush them as the recipe calls for. Putting them in the food processor makes it way easier. I'm only doing small pulses because I want to leave it slightly chunky, because I want to have the cookies to have extra crunch in it besides the crunchy peanut butter that I've put in it. So I wanted extra crunchy peanut butter cookie. And I just kept repeating this process until I finished all the nuts in the container. I don't know why, but this food processor for some reason like always gives me a hard time when I'm trying to put the pull back on it. A little side note to tell you guys is that if you over process the peanuts, you actually will start to turn them into peanut butter, like a really raw, unrefined, and unflavored version of peanut butter. So just little FYI. So just in case any of you want to try and make this recipe at home, just make sure you're not over processing your peanuts. And there you have it, some freshly crushed, dry, roasted peanuts. And with a little bit of cleaning up, after I'm done attempting to try and put it back in the bottle, we can move right along. Alright, so take your butter, and then at this point I realized I'm like, what the heck am I doing? So I had to check out the recipe again. Take your regular sugar, and since I'm doing a double recipe, I didn't have to measure out the packed brown sugar because I just had to use what was in the pre-measured box, which was awesome. I used a box that was I already had, and I forgot that because it was winter. It was literally like basically frozen solid, so I probably should have let it like get room temperature a little bit first. So I kind of had a little bit of a struggle with this brown sugar here. And it will just get worse until it's fully incorporated, as you will see in the video. Just another FYI trick, when the recipe tells you to do things at room temp, it's not just saying that because it wants you to be overly prepared. It's saying that because of situations like this where you're trying to mix things and it's either too frozen, or in the case of summer, it'll be too melted if it's butter, and it just makes it easier to work the dough better, or in this current case, it won't be a solid chunk of sugar that just won't incorporate with the dough properly because it's frozen. And there you have it. Now that I've actually gotten the sugar incorporated, the dough is now actually coming together and looking like actual cookie dough, as it should at this stage. But yeah, so just when it says room temperature, just get everything out, let it sit for a little bit, and just do what it says. It's easier. After holding the flour awkwardly for a minute or so, I'm going to add the baking powder and the baking soda. And then now the salt after I've making sure I've gotten all the baking soda out of the container. And then I'm just going to put that aside after I've made a little bit of room on the table. Normally I'm better at cleaning my workstation as I go, but at this point it was just like late at night when I did this dough, so I was more concerned about getting it done than actually being clean. I'm just going to give it a little mix and then it's all good to go. Now that I've given the butter and the sugars time to mix, I'm going to scrape down the paddle and the bowls. This is just to ensure that I'm not missing anything at the bottom of the bowl and nothing is attaching itself to the paddles, because I want to make sure my dough is very well incorporated. For those of you who don't know what incorporated means, it just means really well mixed together, because I like my dough to be even. After letting it paddle a little bit more, I'm adding the vanilla to the mixture. Now it's time to add in the crunchy peanut butter, and like an idiot I didn't open this thing before the video. Why? I do not know, but I've got it open now, so yay! I'm just going to scrape it out and put it directly into the bowl. Technically I'm supposed to do this by this I mean the crunchy peanut butter, the vanilla, and the eggs in one step, but I'm doing it as separate ones because I want to make sure that I have them incorporated very well, considering it's chunky peanut butter and that's kind of might be a little hard to mix with a bunch of other stuff. So I just turned the mixer on so I can start incorporating while I'm scraping the rest of the peanut butter out of the jar. Thankfully, I needed exactly the amounts the jar had, so I don't have to worry about measuring it. I just gotta get it all out of there. Alright, time to add the eggs. So I just add them in one at a time, and then I scrape after the eggs are mixed in. Man, that took me a while to get to the scraping part. Jeez. Now, on to adding the flour mixture. I add it very slowly, and by very slowly I mean I take a very small scoop and put in maybe one or two at a time and pulse it to mix it in to avoid the poof cloud. Now, here's an FYI for you. The poof cloud, when you're dealing with cooking or baking, well, baking I should say, is when you're putting flour mixture into something and instead of doing it slowly, you basically turn it all the way up and then you get that poof of flour in your face. I affectionately call that the poof cloud. it's a pain in the butt to deal with. No one likes dealing with it. So how to avoid that is that you slowly add in the flour. So you do 1 to 2 scoops, maybe more, depending on if you're skilled or not, to avoid it, like me. Because I think I did that for this recipe like later on when I was like getting really late at night and I was just like, oh, screw it, I'm gonna just add it in. But once you add it in, you pulse the mixer. So like you turn it on for like seconds, and then you turn it off, and then you just keep doing that until it's mixed, and then you just add in more flour, and then you just keep doing it in those small batches, and then you keep doing the pulsing, and then sooner or later all your flour will be incorporated and you won't have that big puff of flour cloud in your face. And that's how you avoid it. Alright, so now that I've gotten all the flour mixture incorporated, I'm going to make sure I scrape really well after this, so that way I get all of the areas that possibly could not have gotten flour mixed in, like the bottom of the bowl and such. Now, it's time to add in the crushed peanuts. I just literally dumped them on top and I mixed them that way. Now, I realized in hindsight this was really not the best way to do it. What would have been the best way to do it was I put it in a big bowl and then I hand mixed it together. This would have made it so it was less messy and I didn't get it all over the place like I'm currently doing. But like I said earlier in the video, I'm doing this video late at night and I'm just like, this just proves it, because normally I'm smarter than putting it in just all. I'd do it way not like this, because now the peanut crumbs are going to get all over the place like they do on the table, and that's not the best way to do it. This is not how you should do it. As you can see, I'm like trying to save it so it doesn't like get all over the place. Another thing that most people need to watch out for is that if you're doing a double batch of recipe, sometimes it's easier just to do the double batch separately, so that way you don't have the issue I have currently, which is my bowl isn't big enough to hold the double batch of the recipe. So there's just another FYI there for you. But there you go, the dough is officially done. So I took a half tablespoon measuring spoon because I was using my scoop previously, as you can see in the video. I have it there on the table and I didn't like how big it was. So for the majority of the rest of my cookies, I used that scoop. And then because I wanted to make minis, so what I did was I just scooped them out using the measuring spoon, and then I used the knife to get it out of the spoon if I needed to. Technically, I guess I could have just done it with my fingers, but I'm choosing not to because I didn't want to get my hands dirty at that point. And now I'm just scooping more cookie dough until I filled up the rest of the tray. Okay, now it's just a matter of pressing down the cookie dough balls to flatten them out, and then they're ready for the oven. When they go into the oven, they're going in at 350 degrees for the first 5 minutes. Once the timer goes off, I then have to swap the trays onto the other rack, as the oven I'm working with bakes them unevenly, so I have to do that with all my cookies. And then I put them in for another 10 minutes. Technically, I'm supposed to do that in reverse. It's technically supposed to be 10 minutes first and then 5 minutes, but I messed up. And voila!